Hi, I'm Richard Vague with Tychos. We've talked recently about the ill effects of the cutbacks in research in the U.S., research which has been the great engine of our business innovation, from semiconductors to penicillin to GPS, artificial intelligence, the internet, quantum computing, and much more. It could jeopardize our world leadership. And leadership in the world economy is not something we can take for granted. When it comes to the size and influence you have in the economy and the risk of that declining, Japan is the great cautionary tale. In 1994, its economy was a whopping 18% of global GDP, the second largest economy in the world. Some forecast that it would become the largest economy in the world, and more than a few American parents, wanting their kids to be able to compete in the new global economy, were sending them to language school to learn Japanese. Sony Corporation was the cutting edge of electronics. Toyota was the very definition of leading-edge manufacturing. Its banks, who at one point were 4 of the top 5 largest banks on the planet, including the massive Daiichi Congo Bank, led the world, and business people were scrambling to learn the secrets of just-in-time or lean manufacturing and total quality management that were embraced so heartedly by Japan. Today, Japan stands at a shriveled 4% of global GDP, 4 in the world, behind the U.S., China, and Germany. This past week, it was in the headlines again as it posted a decline in its real GDP of negative 0.2%, disappointing forecasters who had expected better. Over the last 27 years, Japan's real GDP has struggled to return to any kind of positive territory, posting a gain of a mere 0.17% in the most recent full year of 2024. But in truth, Japan's GDP has barely budged since its 1998 financial crisis and banking sector rescue, and its population has long been shrinking in size. Not to mention the Nikkei 225 stock market index that took an incredible 34 years to fully regain its losses from the 1990 crash. When it comes to technology competitiveness, according to the International Institute for Management Development, Japan has somehow slipped in the consideration of many to 6th place within Asia, behind Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, China, and given the ascendance of chipmaker TSMC, behind even Taiwan. Actually, with the American government increasingly blocking the use of Chinese manufacturing, Japan may experience another moment in the sun as desperate buyers of tech rediscover the advanced technological prowess of some Japanese companies. Nevertheless, with Japan having slipped to only 4% of global GDP, we can only ask, what happened? First and foremost, Japan overproduced and overbuilt to a staggering degree in the late 1980s, to levels almost never seen before then, and far more than the U.S. did in 2008, and even more than China's recent levels that have led to the debacles of Evergrande and beyond. Japan overbuilt in their own country, in Hawaii, in California, and in New York. At the height of this absurdity, it was literally the case that the grounds of Tokyo's Imperial Palace were worth as much as the entire state of California. While they were doing that building and producing, they mistakenly thought they were conquering the world economically. But once they realized their new buildings would never get filled, the loan losses came crashing back on them, destroying their banking system and leaving them hobbling for a generation, something they are only now beginning to crawl out from under. Number 2, at the height of its economic hubris, some of its companies made classic mistakes that come with that, and Sony was the apotheosis of that. In the 1980s and 90s, the Sony Walkman was the world's dominant consumer electronics product, with every self-respecting American commuter and jogger listening via headphones to the latest music on a Walkman portable CD player. They had the inside track, therefore, to translate that into leadership in the portable digital music player space But instead, a company called Apple introduced something called the iPod, and soon those Walkmans were obsolete. Why? Sony bought a Hollywood movie and record company in 1989 at the very height of Japan's hubris, and in the next decade, Sony's studio and record division argued against the development of those digital players because they would encourage pirating of music and cannibalize their profits. So, just as things started to turn around for Sony with its 1994 PlayStation, in 2001, Apple debuted that iPod with its renegade Rip, Mix, Burn advertising campaign, and Microsoft then debuted their own video game console, the Xbox. Sony's world-leading position had been lost. Suddenly, the world's center of electronics innovation was no longer Japan. Number 3, in the turmoil of the global financial crisis, Japan went from being a net exporter, something that can compensate for a multitude of economic sins, and was a central pillar of Japan's economic might, to a net importer with adverse effects on debt and growth. Number 4, also, Japan followed the path of many wealthy countries as it saw its fertility rates decline. The Japanese stopped having as many babies, but it was also at the same time a stickler on immigration, which could have made up for its birth rate decline. So, in 2010, that all caught up to Japan, and its population has since been in decline. These macro trends together translated into Japan's decline. That's it for this week. Thanks.